Rørik or Rürik, Old Church Slavonic, from Rørik. The Old East Norse form of the name Roderick, c. 830, c. 879, was a legendary Varangian chieftain who gained control of Ladoga in 862, built the Holmgard settlement near Novgorod, and founded the Rurik Dynasty, which ruled Kievan Rus, and later Grand Duchy of Moscow and Tsardom of Russia, until the 17th century. There is a debate over how Rürik came to control Ladoga and Novgorod. The only information about him is contained in the 12th century Primary Chronicle, which states that Chuds, Estonians, Eastern Slavs, Merias, Veses, and Krivichs drove the Varangians back beyond the sea, refused to pay them tribute, and set out to govern themselves. Afterwards, the tribes started fighting each other and decided to invite the Varangians, led by Rørik, to re-establish order. According to the Primary Chronicle, Rørik was one of the Rus, a Varangian tribe likened by the chronicler to Danes, Swedes, Angles, and Gotlanders. In the 20th century, archaeologists partly corroborated the chronicle's version of events, but mostly the excavations denied most of the chronicles date to about Rürik's arrival, when it was apparent that the old settlement stretched to the mid-8th century and the excavated objects were mostly of Finnish, Ugric and Slavic origin, dated to the mid-8th century, which showed the settlement was not Scandinavian from the beginning. Rørik remained in power until his death in 879. His successors, the Rurik Dynasty, however, moved the capital to Kiev and founded the state of Kievan Rus, which persisted until the Mongol invasion in 1240. A number of extant princely families are patrilineally descended from Rørik, although the last Rurikid to rule Russia, Vasily IV, died in 1612. According to the entries in the Radzivill and Hypatian chronicles under the years 862 to 864, Rürik's first residence was in Ladoga. It is only later that he moved his seat of power to Novgorod, a fort built not far from the source of the Volkhov River. The meaning of this place name in medieval Russian is new fortification, while the current meaning, new town, appeared only later. There is a large, 9th century funerary barrow in Novgorod Oblast, reminiscent of the mounds at Old Uppsala, Sweden, which is called Shumgora. Intricately defended against looting, it remains to be excavated. The local inhabitants refer to it as Rürik's grave. The only Rørik described in Western chronicles was Rørik of Dorstad, a conan from the royal Silding House of Habu. Since the 19th century, there have been attempts to identify him with the Viking prince Rørik of Russian chronicles. Rørik of Dorstad was born about 810–820 to Alian Ulo, 9th king of Habu. Frankish chroniclers mention that he received lands in Friesland from the Emperor Louis I. This was not enough for him, and he started to plunder neighboring lands. He took Dorstad in 850, captured Habu in 857, and looted Bremen in 859. The emperor was enraged and stripped him of all his possessions in 860. After that, Rørik disappears from the Western sources for a considerable period of time. At that very moment, in 862, the Russian Rørik arrives in the eastern Baltic, builds the fortress of Ladoga, and later moves to Novgorod. Rørik of Dorstad reappeared in Frankish chronicles in 870, when his Friesland de Mesne was returned to him by Charles the Bald. In 882 he is already mentioned as dead. The Russian chronicle places the death of Rørik of Novgorod at 879. According to Western sources, the ruler of Friesland was converted to Christianity by the Franks. This may have parallels with the Christianization of the Rus, as reported by Patriarch Photius in 867, whereas there have been some attempts in the 19th century to identify Rørik, which is a legendary figure, with Rørik of Dorstad. They were not successful, and the theory of their identity currently has no supporters among scholars. The Rurikid dynasty went on to rule the Kievan Rus, and ultimately the Tsardom of Muscovy, until 1598. Numerous noble Russian and Ruthenian families claim a male line descent from Rørik, and via Anne of Kiev, wife of Henry I of France. Rurikid ancestry can also be argued for numerous Western European lineages. Vasily Tatishkov, a Rurikid himself, claimed that Rørik was of Wendish extraction and went so far as to name his wife, Eufanda of Norway, Endvinda Alfrind. Mother, Umla, his maternal grandfather, Gostomisl, and a cousin, Vadim, apparently basing his account on the lost Primary Chronicle. Genetic investigation. According to the family tree Rurik Dynasty DNA project, Rørik appears to have belonged to Y-DNA haplogroup N1C1, based on testing of his modern male line descendants. Contrary to the Norman theory of the origin of the Kievan Rus state, N1C1 is not widely found in Scandinavian countries, but is overwhelmingly found among Baltic and Finnish ethnicities. The N1C1 haplotype possess the distinctive value dis390=23, also rarely found in Scandinavia, but with the closest relatives of the Rørik haplotype being found in coastal Finland, among the Swedish-speaking Finns.